Well, welcome. My name is Brianna McWilliam, and I'm an author, educator, and licensed creative arts therapist, and I am very excited to welcome Jordan here today. And Jordan has graciously agreed to offer his testimonial for the course Avoidant Attachment 101. Welcome. Thank you for joining me here.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So I'm just going to ask you 4 questions. And the first question is, what drew you to purchasing a course like this?
So the backstory here was basically my in my relationship, things had kind of come to a head where it was at a point where something has to move, something has to shift, something has to change. And at that point in time, the one thing that we kind of knew was that there was this unhealthy push and pull dynamic, but we didn't really have any verbiage or language or understanding of it beyond that. That was pretty much the extent of it. And so we got to a point where it's like, we need to take 2 weeks apart from one another and really just start digging in. And during this time, I really wanted to understand, like, what exactly is this push-pull thing that's going on? And one of my friends recommended to me looking up adult attachment types, which was my very first exposure to anything within the attachment world. And shortly thereafter, I ended up on one of the YouTube videos of yours talking about the anxious-avoidant trap. And all of a sudden I was like, Brianna has been watching our whole relationship all along here, because this is just way too accurate. And so, challenging in some ways seeing that, but also very hopeful in that it was describing my behavior, my tendencies as an avoidant so well. And there's nothing that I could do about the past or everything that had happened up until that point, but I did have the opportunity to start changing my behavior moving forward. And the first step in that was, of course, enrolling in the program.
Well, thank you. The second question I have kind of leads off of that. What would you say are, that's 2 to 3 things that you feel like you gained from the course?
Yeah, so the first one was just really that deep understanding of the anxious avoidant trap, and getting a bit of an understanding before diving in, but then just really getting that understanding around how both of us were playing a role in this push-pull dynamic, and specifically around kind of the breadcrumbing, and once there was a big trigger, what some of those little things were, little actions that ultimately started kind of pulling back together or pushing further apart. So that was a really insightful piece. Another one was that up until the course, in some instances, the way that I had described the relationship to other individuals was one of ecstasy and anguish. And so it was really interesting going through the course and actually seeing at the kind of the neuro and the chemical level that, like, that's pretty much exactly what's happening, is that it's, the highs and lows of it all.
Yeah.
So there's something peaceful about knowing that there's actual science behind this as well, and things along those lines are happening. And then the third thing was that it's not just education and then good luck out there. It was the exercises, the reflection, the looking back at certain instances, and really putting some of that education into work, that I'd say kind of further allowed exploration into the patterns and behavior that existed, and ultimately the beginning of correcting that behavior.
Thank you. And if there was a favorite aspect of the course, so the course has like a workbook and recorded lectures, and there's some guided meditations, and then a focus wheel as a tool to start delving into some of that stuff. Do you have like a favorite aspect of the program, or the part that you felt more connected to?
Yeah, so for myself, it's actually been the guided meditation. It's just really cool having thoughts come up, and rather than trying to fight them or get angry and mad at myself for even allowing or having such a thought come up, is just coming to peace with, okay, this is a thought that's going on and happening, and putting it onto the big screen and letting it kind of run its course in my mind, and then releasing it and letting it go. And in doing so, essentially creating space for new and better thoughts, and thoughts that are more in line with who I actually want to become. And that for whatever reason, just by giving it that space to actually run its course and breathe, ultimately allowed me to release it in a much easier manner than kind of resisting it or wanting it not to be true or not to be a thought that even would ever go through my mind.
Thank you. And my last question for you would just be, if someone were considering taking this course and maybe they're on the fence about it, what guidance would you offer them?
Yeah, I think like don't even question it, just like dive straight in, because there's just so much to be learned and so much to ultimately, like the feeling that I have now is that of hope and hopeful that I can ultimately become the partner that I've aspired to become. So if as you kind of go through those first resources or the first research on attachment types and it's like, this sounds like me, then couldn't recommend it enough to dive in and start doing the work on changing the behaviors and patterns.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy that that was your experience of it, and I really appreciate your willingness to share your experience here on this testimonial.
My pleasure. Thanks, Brianna.
Thank you.